You're very welcome, as I said, to the information session for Resonate 2023. So Resonate is a programme of Music Network artist residencies presented in partnership with glór, Ionad Cultúrtha, the National Opera House, Triskel Arts Centre, the DOC and Regional Cultural Centre. Some information about Resonate, about the residencies. There will be 6 artist residencies in 2023 with the venue partners that I've just mentioned there. And Resonate essentially provides support for professional musicians with a strong track record in music performance. So that's a key piece of information, that you do need to have a strong track record in music performance to apply for this opportunity. And Resonate enables artists to devote time and space to develop new work and or collaborations. So it may be an existing collaboration that you want to maybe take your work in a new direction or explore a new body of work, or it could be a brand new collaboration, or you could apply as a solo artist. And there'll be opportunities to showcase new material in a live performance in the venue where your residency is taking place. And there'll also be an opportunity to share your creative process online, and we'll refer to this sharing later. They're called digital updates, and I'll come back to that in a minute. And another key aspect of Resonate is to foster relationships between musicians and venue partners. So where are they taking place? Well, glór is in Ennis, Ionad Cultúrtha is in Baile Mhúirne, the National Opera House is in Wexford town, Triskel Arts Centre is in Cork City, the DOC is in Carrick-On-Shannon, and Regional Cultural Centre is in Letterkenny. So you can see the venues are right throughout the country in terms of the locations. Now, when will they take place? So between July and October 23, there will be development work happening as part of Resonate residencies. And then in November and December, there will be a series of concert performances, one to take place in each venue. So what does each residency include? Well, there will be a grant of €6,000, and this is to cover artist fees and expenses such as accommodation and travel, for example. The residencies will offer up to 12 development days in the venue. This would include up to 10 to take place in that development period, July to October, and then potentially another 1 to 2 days of development or rehearsal closer to the concert time. Now, these dates would need to be discussed and agreed between the appointed artist and each venue. A concert performance will happen between 22nd of November and the 10th of December. And again, the specific date for your concert as a resident artist would be discussed between you and the venue. And then the online sharing of work in progress. So this is where 4 digital updates will be shared by you. These digital updates are created by the artist, and it's a really lovely way to share your artistic process with the general public. So it's a really nice way to engage with people and to showcase your approach to your work. Throughout the residencies, Music Network and the venue partner will be very happy to offer in-kind advice and support. And a key thing to note is, if you're looking at the guidelines, if you turn to page 6, so between page 6 and 11, there's a page dedicated to each residency and each venue, and it contains information specific to that residency. So do look at those pages closely to see what residency opportunity might best suit you. So who can apply? Well, as we said, you have to be a professional musician with a strong track record in performance. You can be performing in a range of genres, so it's very open in that respect. You can apply either as a solo artist or in collaboration with others. You can propose single genre or multiple genre, depending on what you would like to do and develop within your project. You could also propose, in some instances, a cross art form project idea. And just to be aware, if you are proposing cross art form, that music would need to be the core art form in the project. As the main applicant, you must be currently living in the Republic of Ireland, and you must be aged 18 or over. And Music Network is committed to equity and inclusion, and particularly welcomes applications from underrepresented musicians, including but not limited to musicians of colour, musicians with disabilities, traveller musicians, and LGBTQ+ musicians. So you're not eligible to apply if you do not have a strong track record in performance, or if you are under the age of 18. Additional information to note is that you can only apply for one residency, so you need to select which residency best suits your proposal. And collaborators, if you are planning to collaborate with others, these can include performers or composers, or indeed practitioners from other art forms if you are proposing a cross art form project. So we look at the application process now, and we have some images from the live concerts of last year's Resonate series here. So the application process is fully online. If you visit musicnetwork.ie, you can download the Resonate guidelines. You can also, as I mentioned earlier, do this today directly from the chat stream. So you begin by creating an account on the application portal. Very simple to set up your profile. And once you're set up, you can log in to fill in the application form and begin to upload your essential and optional support materials. And it's really important to note that this can be done in stages. So you can save a draft of your application as many times as you like. And when you're happy with it, entirely happy with it, then you can submit the application. A key thing to note is the deadline, Thursday, the 11th of May at 2 p.m. And we cannot accept late applications. So really take note of that and submit your application well in advance of this time, and ideally in advance of the date, just to make sure you don't have any technical issues on the day. When you submit your application, you will receive an automated confirmation email. And if you don't receive this email, it means we have not received your application. So do check your spam folder, make sure you have that email. And if you don't have it, do get in touch with Music Network in advance of the deadline, and we can certainly offer assistance. Everyone will receive results of their assessment by email in June. So again, check your spam folder if you don't receive something into your inbox. Now, just to tell you a little bit about the application form, it's very straightforward. The first section is just general information, your contact details, and you confirm that you're living in the Republic of Ireland and that you are over 18 or 18 or over. Section 2 relates to the residency details. So it's here where you select which residency you would like to apply for, and you state why you would like to do a residency in that particular venue. Also, you outline here whether you're planning to do a solo residency or perhaps collaborate with others. If it's a solo residency, you would also upload your CV here, a CV of up to 2 pages. If you're collaborating with others, in addition to your CV as the main applicant, you would upload a 1-page biography for each of your collaborators here in section 2. Moving on to section 3, this is where you outline your program of work. And there are 2 ways in which you do this. The first is to upload a description of your proposal, where you would outline your artistic concept, detail if you're planning to do a solo residency, your approach to your work, if it's with collaborators, maybe the approach to the collaboration, what you hope to achieve and why, and also details on your ideas for the final concert performance would be uploaded here. In addition to this description, you're asked to upload a 1-minute video, which in your own words summarizes why you want to do the residency. And it's a really nice opportunity as well to, I suppose, state the impact that the residency would have on your work and the benefits of it to your work. In section 3, you also upload your budget, and this would include a detailed breakdown of the artist fees, if you have expenses like travel and accommodation, or for example, if you're required to provide public liability, which is the case for some of the residencies, this would also be detailed in your budget that you submit in section 3. Just to mention, in relation to artist fees, a key element to be mindful of is that all artists are fairly remunerated for their work. So if you are proposing to work with collaborators, you need to make sure that everyone's work is fairly remunerated, and that includes yourself as the main applicant. So when you're considering the scale of your proposal, you might take that into consideration to make sure that that everyone can be fairly remunerated. And finally, in section 3, you're asked to upload 3 samples of your work. This could be in the form of MP3s, or you could link to online samples, for example, a video on YouTube or an audio file on SoundCloud, just to make sure that if you are linking to a file online, make sure that it's accessible. Sometimes there's a password on a SoundCloud account, and it would mean the panel would not be able to listen to your work. So just be mindful of things like that when you are uploading those samples. Then moving on to section 4, this is where you have the option to upload support materials, additional support materials, if you feel it would strengthen your application. These might be things like a score, a review, a press clipping, something like that. You can upload up to 5 optional support materials. Then section 5 is a crucial one in that it's a checklist for the essential support materials, and you have to upload every one of the essential support materials in order for your application to be eligible. And so just make sure that you can click yes to each of those items listed in section 5. Section 6 is an optional section, and it's some short research questions and also an opportunity for you to provide feedback to Music Network and to the venue partners about Resonate, about the scheme itself, or about the application process. Anything you'd like to share with us here will be much appreciated, and we always welcome feedback in relation to the scheme. And section 7 is another optional section, some research questions in relation to equality, diversity and inclusion. Music Network wants to make sure that our programs involve a wide range of people, and so by providing some information here, you will enable us to monitor and evaluate this, and to make sure we are engaging with a wide range of people. Just to say that for section 6 and 7, these are optional, and any information provided in either of these sections will not impact in any way on your application. Just very quickly, these are ways in which you'll be inputting into the application form. I'm sure you've seen these before: text boxes, radio buttons. There'll be word counts on the bottom right-hand corner of some of the text boxes. So do be mindful of those, as if you go over them, you'll have to go back and edit to reduce the word count before you can submit. 3.4 just illustrates how you will be uploading elements to the form. Here you're asked to upload audio and video samples. Very simple. You click choose file and you browse to where you have the files saved. Just want to also draw your attention to the text beneath this question. As you go through the form, you'll see tips related to each question. It's really useful to read these as you go along. Like you'll see there, it's letting you know what file types you can upload, acceptable file types. You see MP3 is in there, so you can upload an MP3, but WAV files are not in there, so you're not allowed to upload a WAV file. It lets you know that for your audio files, you would upload accompanying information about the files in a Word doc or a PDF. So it's really useful information, reminder of what is listed in the guidelines. And just in relation to that Word doc, the information you contain about your recording details, you know, it's really important to include that so the panel know what they're listening to. If you have, as it says there, particular points in the recording where you want the panel to listen from, for example, if it's a particularly long recording and the track that you want them to hear starts at 30 minutes, put that in the Word doc and the panel will start listening from there. So you can input a lot of information and share a lot of information in that Word doc. You see there at the bottom as well, there's that reminder about accessible links. So do read those tips as you go through the form. They will be useful to help you fill it in to the best way possible. And then just to show you where you save a draft. So for example, if you fill in sections 1 and 2, and then you want to go away and consider what you input into section 3, the option to save a draft is at the bottom of the form. So just scroll down to the end and save a draft as many times as you like. And when you're completely happy with your form, at that point, you click apply, and you will not be able to edit or change anything once you hit the apply button. So make sure you're 100% happy with it before you do that. Just to make you aware of the essential support materials, because if you don't submit all of these, your application can't be assessed. So just to run through them very quickly, your own CV up to 2 pages as the main applicant. If you're collaborating with others, you must submit biographies of these collaborators. As we mentioned, you must submit an outline of your proposed program of work. The 1-minute video clip to summarize what you aim to achieve creatively is also an essential support material. You must submit a short statement, as we mentioned in section 2, outlining why you would like to do a residency in a chosen venue. The audio samples are also an essential support material, and you can submit up to 3 audio and video samples. And finally, the residency budget, which we referred to a minute ago, is also an essential support material. So you'll see this list in section 5, and just make sure you have uploaded all of these items. So here we have some more live shots from Resonate 2022 concerts. And we're going to just very briefly refer to the selection criteria and the assessment process now. So the selection criteria are on page 1 of the guidelines, and just be really mindful of these and make sure you address the criteria as you're preparing your applications. These are the basis, these are the criteria which the panels will use to assess your application. So it's, you know, as you can imagine, a very competitive process. So really be mindful of these 4 criteria as you're preparing your application. The assessment process, very straightforward. A panel will consider all eligible applications received. As I mentioned, successful and unsuccessful applicants will receive notification by email in June, so do check your account. Feedback will be available upon request for 4 weeks following communication of results. So if you are not successful on this occasion, it can be really useful to request feedback. You know, it can be very helpful in your preparations of future applications, whether it's to Resonate or other funding opportunities. And just to mention that if applications received for a particular residency are not suitable for that particular residency, a different selection process may be pursued. Just to conclude, some of these tips may sound very obvious, but it's always good for all of us to have a reminder, just to encourage you to read the guidelines carefully. Some of you may have read them from last year, but they have changed a little, so do take care to read them carefully. Do not assume assessors are familiar with your work. This is really important, particularly for very established artists, just to note that the panel can only assess the materials that you submit. So make sure to be mindful of that. An obvious one, ensure the audio and visual recordings offer the best representation of your work. So make sure they're relevant and make sure they showcase the best of what you do. And of course, the information in the application, keep it clear and concise and relevant, and that will certainly help the panel to assess your application accurately. And a reminder of the deadline. Final point, a reminder of the deadline, Thursday, 11th of May at 2 p.m. Be sure to submit your application prior to that time and date. So we are coming to the questions section of the information session now. And just before I stop sharing my screen and invite our 6 venue partners to join the panel, just to say, if you have any questions after today, I'm sure other questions will occur. You can email my colleague Kieran on operations@musicnetwork.ie, or you can phone us on 01 475 0224, anytime Monday to Friday from 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we will certainly do our best to support you and answer any questions you may have. So I'm going to stop screen sharing and invite the panelists to turn on their cameras. I think we have one more due to join. I'll just
Hi, Deirdre, it's saying you've stopped my camera. It's not letting me turn it on.
Oh, Kieran and Raluca, you might have a look at that and see if if we can have a visual representation of Aisling there. So I'm delighted to be joined by Leonie Riede from Ionad Cultúrtha, Liz O'Dowd from the Dock, Tony Sheehan from Triskel Arts Centre, Aisling White from the National Opera House, Jeremy Howard from Regional Cultural Centre, and Sinead Cahill from Glór. So thank you all for joining us here on the panel today. So I'm just going to, I suppose, go to the Q&A section here and see what questions people have for us. So the first one, if you are applying as a solo artist, but intend to use a number of musicians for the performance, is that classed as collaborators? I don't know if anyone in particular wants to answer that, or I can start off, whatever may suit there. Just briefly, I would say collaborators, I mean, I suppose people collaborate at different levels, you know, in terms of some may collaborate during the development process, but certainly I would include biographies of collaborators for the performance, because you will need closer to the performance time to rehearse with those artists. At the very least, you may be creating the work yourself, but rehearsals would need to be factored in closer to the performance time. Would anyone else like to comment on that?
Yeah, I'll come in there, Deirdre. Welcome, Gachtana. So, yeah, in terms of the Ionad, certainly we had Pauline Scanlon as our artist in residence, and she was collaborating with Barry Kerr and Sheila Denver, you know, for the concert itself. So I think that'll work quite well. But again, you know, as you were saying, Deirdre, it's important to have the biogs and to see who you're going to be collaborating with for the end performance, just so we get a sense of what it's going to be. So, yeah.
Absolutely, great. So I think the consensus there is to include, it's a one-page biography for each of the collaborators. Now, just mark that off as done. So, as regards the budget, how detailed should the budget outline be? And is it required in full at the time of application, i.e. should the whole 6,000 be accounted for at the time of the application? I think we would probably all say that yes, it should be accounted for, because you need to see where the budget is going. I mean, it is, there are understandably tweaks sometimes after someone is appointed if something changes a little, but you know, it is to cover artist fees, accommodation, travel, and as I mentioned, in some cases, public liability insurance. So you mightn't be entirely sure, you know, what that may be at that point. So there may be slight tweaks, but I would certainly say to allocate the 6,000. Would someone like to comment on that further? No, I think these are, because they're fairly straightforward questions, we can get through these fairly quickly. So a few questions here. Are you looking for income from other sources at all? Or is the total budget of the whole project 6,000? Would someone like to comment on that? Is that something that people would like? Would venue? I mean, primarily it is Resonate. That is the budget for Resonate. I suppose maybe someone is saying, if they had funding from other sources, is that an issue or not?
It wouldn't be an issue for us anyway, if Music Network was happy with that. If there was maybe some other local organization or a partnership that made sense to maybe do more work, or like educational work or outreach work or something different. But I suppose it would be Music Network who would have the final say on that. I'd be open to it.
a case-by-case basis, I suppose, Ashley, isn't it, that we'd
Yeah.
look at that. I suppose sometimes people have a project that follows on from another project, you know, and, you know, that may be something that would be considered, but I suppose really the Resonate budget is 6,000 for artist fees, and that's kind of the simplest way of kind of looking at it, really. Another question from that same person: is advertising the event something that needs to be included in the budget, or is that covered by the venue and music network? So I suppose from Music Network's point of view, we certainly support the advertising of the residencies in partnership with the venues. I suppose I would say advertising on social media and those type of platforms would be very much encouraged and helping to spread the word. But I'm not sure that it's necessary to allocate a budget for posters or that type of funding. I'm getting shaking heads there. So
No.
I think that is,
No,
yeah. I think I would say it's more of an in-kind support that the artist is encouraged to do, rather than allocate budget towards funding, because the venue and Music Network will certainly support that.
Yeah.
Is the 1-minute video to be just the applicant speaking about the proposal, or should it be an artistic work in itself? I haven't seen the 1-minute videos. Would anyone like to respond there?
I think the best 1-minute videos seem to be always the more simple ones, just from the ones we've seen in previous years, just straightforward, clearly explaining the project. I don't think it needs to be any more elaborate than that. I think the application is the elaborate bit, and the 1-minute bit is the just breaking it down.
Yeah, I agree with you, Aisling, on that, because look, you know, you can go to an awful lot of trouble trying to create some fantastic 1-minute video when really, you know, I would advise people not to be taking that amount of stress and work on themselves to try and create some amazing video, visually, you know, fantastic. So yeah, keep it simple, and easier for us and easier for them, so long as it outlines, you know, you the person, and very just be you, really. That's all. It's, you know, just talk to the camera, tell us who you are. That's it.
I think that's very nicely put. Yes, just be you and tell us about your project. It's about getting to the heart of it, really, isn't it, in your own words? It doesn't need bells and whistles. So I hope that answers all of your questions there. Moving on to the next one. How do you judge what is a strong track record in performance and what is not? Again, feel free to jump in, anybody. I don't want to put anyone on the spot. I mean, I can share our thoughts on it. How do you judge what is a strong track record? I suppose we're looking for established artists here, who you can demonstrate your track record in a variety of ways. It could be through your concert performances, it could be sharing reviews, often as well, you know, who you've collaborated with in the past, who you've worked with, who has worked with you. Are you someone whose peers recognize you as an established musician? These are all, I suppose, considerations for you as an artist, and you know, how you illustrate that you have you know, that you're an established musician and you have a strong track record. Would anyone else like to jump in there on ways in which they would assess a strong track record?
Yeah, just I suppose this is a way of distinguishing between the amateur group that, you know, does wedding band covers and professionals who are trying to make a career from live music. And we need to be able to distinguish between them, because some applicants in the past came from fairly unusual places now and saw the $6,000 as a great thing altogether for them. And so we have to find a way to communicate that actually that this is for people who are serious about music, in terms of trying to make a career or a living from it, if that helps.
Absolutely. I suppose we could add to say that, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that you absolutely only exclusively earn you're living from your performance practice, but you must identify and be recognized by your peers as a professional musician and established in that right. I think hopefully we've answered that question. So will there be one applicant chosen per venue? Yes, I think we can. So it's one per venue, so there'll be 6 Resonate artists for 2023. I'm based in the Republic of Ireland, but 3/4 of the collaborators that I wish to work with are based in Belfast. Is this an issue, or will my application still be eligible? I think, oh, sorry, you looked like you were going to say something there, Jeremy, or not?
Oh, I was just reading it. Will it be legible or illegible?
Well, I think it's eligible is the intended.
No, I would say it would be eligible as long as the lead applicant is based in the Republic of Ireland. It doesn't really matter where the collaborators come from. And again, that has to be built into the budget. So if you're collaborating with people from all over the world, we need to see that represented in the budget.
Absolutely, that's what it comes down to, really, Jeremy. You're absolutely right that, you know, Belfast, I suppose it would be just ground travel, one would assume, rail or petrol or whatever, whereas if someone is flying from other countries, you know, that will eat into your budget, so you just need to make sure there's room to do that, but it certainly doesn't preclude you from having collaborators who are outside of the Republic of Ireland. Great. So then the digital updates, where and when are these shared during the project? I suppose these would be discussed between the appointed artist and Music Network and the venue, but ideally, you know, it's a chance to illustrate your process, your artistic process throughout your development period. So ideally they would be spaced out and lead up to the concert performance, but these are details which would be discussed when you'd be about to start your residency. So certainly you wouldn't be left to just go in, organize that. You know, we'll certainly discuss that and support you in creating those to share your creative process during the residency. Anyone like to add anything to that, or will I move on to the next question? No, okay. So regarding genres, would be rather extreme experimental sound art music. Oh, so would experimental sound art music be considered if you so I think the genres are very open in general. Yeah, no, I pass over to Tony here. I was just going to say, for very specific points, if you look at pages 6 to 11 of the guidelines, you'd see where venues may prioritize certain genres, but I will, sorry, pass over to you there, Tony.
Well, just to echo that each venue may have a particular draw towards something or other, but we specifically at Triskel welcome applications from art music, experimental, contemporary, avant-garde for consideration. Triskel has kind of a long track record of doing that kind of work, so certainly we're not against it.
That's fair enough. Triskel are not against it. No, no. As you said, Tony, you welcome it, which is fantastic. I mean, would anyone else like to say anything about genres as we're on that subject? As I said, you have already detailed it in the page in the guidelines, but if there was anything anyone wanted to add, please feel free to do so there before we move on. So I think the message really is to just have a look at each venue's page about that, but it is very open in general. So another question here, thanks. And one more question. One performer is a voluntary group, the Cork Adult Flute Ensemble. Is it okay to just include a fee to support the voluntary group's travel and subsistence, etc., which means that each member of the large ensemble won't be paid, but they never are paid anyway because it's a voluntary group. The collaboration will be with the director of the voluntary group, who will be involved in the arrangement of pieces and composing. So a fee for her presumably will need to be included. Would anyone like to comment on that? Or Well, I suppose from Music Network's perspective, if the voluntary group normally operates on a voluntary basis, I suppose it would be up to the director to decide if that was appropriate, you know, for them to participate and for their expenses and travel to be covered. I think that would be a conversation between you and that group if you were liaising and collaborating with non-professional musicians. That would be our take on it, I think, unless anyone would have a different approach.
No, I think that's right. As long as the group, as you say, are happy, and it's not that it's someone not getting paid for work that they normally would get paid.
Yeah. I think I think that's a very individual discussion between you, person posing the question here, and the artistic director of that group. And as you said, you know, it may be that there's a fee for the artistic director and expenses covered for the voluntary group, but you'd have to kind of discuss that with that group, I think. Tony, yeah. Sorry, Tony, you're on mute there.
Just on that, it would also be important to put into your application your rationale for using that particular group. Again, because the assessors wouldn't necessarily be familiar with voluntary musical groups. In this case, it would be important that the director set out why that particular group is being used, what particular qualities they bring to the overall work.
A very, very important point, Tony. Thank you. So just moving on to the yes, so if accepted, would there be opportunities to perform in the other Resonate centres going forward? I suppose this opportunity is specifically about performing in the venue where your residency is taking place. So anything additional would be, I suppose, something that, you know, may or may not arise or come up, you know, depending on how conversations go. I suppose this is why a key aspect of the residency is to foster relationships between venues and, you know, to just get those conversations going. But I suppose I would say this particular opportunity is about development work and a concert opportunity in one of the Resonate venues. So if I am an Ireland-based artist, can I apply to collaborate with and invite artists from other EU countries? So we mentioned that already. It would, I suppose, it would speak to really whether it was feasible within the budget, and also whether, you know, to make sure that artists could be fairly remunerated, even taking into account those international travel costs and accommodation costs. Could we hear from each of you a bit about what each venue is looking for, specifically in choosing an artist for their project, or an artist or their project? I suppose, can I just say that there is a dedicated page in the guidelines about each residency and about each venue. So there is that to refer to, but if anyone would like to add or say something additional to that, any of the 6 venues, you know, please feel free to do so now if you'd like to.
Can I just say, actually, in Glór, we've had two very, very different Resonate residencies. So I don't think we're looking for anything in particular, but I think we're looking for a really exciting idea or a really exciting collaboration, or, you know, someone who's interested in developing new work. But I don't think we're looking for anything particular. As I said, both residencies we've had have been very, very different. One was very, very much performance-based, music-based, and another lots of development work and lots of conversation and kind of artists and conversation, which was brilliant too. So that's just from our part.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear, Sinead. Thanks for sharing that.
I just echo what Sinead said, that we're the same. We've had 2 very experimental, developmental artists here over the past couple of residencies, so we're very open.
Great, I'm sure people will be delighted to hear that as well. Yeah, sorry, Leah.
Yeah, we'd probably be the same. The only caveat I would have is that obviously we're in the heart of the Gaeltacht. That doesn't mean to say that we're just focusing on traditional music, because we would, look at everything. And we host a lot of different people here, from opera to jazz to all sorts of different artistic events. But look, certainly from my perspective, there will be an advantage, and a good advantage, if you have some kind of working knowledge of the language, because as I said, we're in the Gaeltacht, and I like to support all artists, but specifically those who are doing their work as Gaeilge.
Great.
If I could make a more general comment,
Yeah.
like each of us have set out in as broad terms as we can on the guidelines what the kind of venue tends to either favour, or perhaps what's more suitable for the venue. In Triskel's case, you're in an 18th century church. It's a very beautiful venue. It has a big bearing on much of the music that actually is performed live in the space. And in our case, the same as Sinead was saying, we had two very different residencies, one coming from a traditional stroke contemporary, the other coming from two classically based musicians. But what I would say to people applying is try not to second guess what the assessors want. Just put in the idea and trust it. It's smart to kind of think about where you want to put it, what venue you want to put it in, what kind of stuff is the venue known for, and is your work going to be treated sympathetically in that venue? Now, what I mean by that is there a kind of a natural marriage between the venue and your work? And if there is, then really after that, it's just the quality of the idea. It's how good the idea is, how feasible it is. So, I wouldn't get too kind of caught up on minor details. At the end of the day, I think what most of us are looking for is we're looking for something special, and something that will enhance the artist's work and life through performance, and that will enhance the venue's work through presenting it, and Music Network's mission by and all of that. And it's really to trust in your idea, to trust in what you're doing, and try not to be overcome by application details that lead you to second guessing. It's terrible. It happens to me all the time with the Arts Council, among others. I get very fed up of it, and there are moments then when you can cast that aside and just put the idea down as best as you can.
Great.
Yeah, I think
Thanks very
just
much.
similar to what Tony's saying, it's the idea that jumps out at you when you're looking at lots of different applications. I mean, start off being led by the guidelines, which are very clear. But I think we're all very open, even if we said, oh, we'd love to have X, Y, and Z. If something else came along on the day we're assessing the applications that's really different and really unique and that jumps off the page, I mean, that's what we're all looking for, something different. So yeah, I think we're all quite open about it, really.
Yeah, well, look, I think that's all really helpful for people to know. Thanks very much, everybody. Just moving on to the next question, is it expected that all of the new material that is being developed be showcased in the concert, or perhaps only part of the new material if the rest hasn't yet been fully developed, and the remainder of the concert be made of previously existing material? So absolutely, the concert can be a combination of material you've developed during the residency and existing material. So that's the simple answer there. So is it better to apply with an already existing project that we would like to develop further and more in depth, or is it better to apply with a completely fresh project? I suppose, speaking, kind of following on from what everyone has just articulated there, there's no right or wrong answer to that, but I suppose I'd be careful about submitting a project that is almost fully developed, and this is just a way to polish it and have a concert. A stronger idea is probably something that is less developed or brand new. It is about creating new work and developing new collaborations. Would anyone have anything additional to add to that, or maybe to have a different take on it there for any of the particular venue perspectives? Are people happy with that?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. If it was really quite heavily developed by other partners, I think it can get a bit confusing or a bit grey. You know, it's nice that this project is a Resonate project. I think if it's had much of a life beforehand, it wouldn't be as attractive, I think, for me from a venue point of view.
Okay, well, if everyone is happy to move on, unless there's anything, okay. So are residencies open to applications from original musical theatre performers, composers? I think they would be. It would be my, you know, again, look for, you know, more detailed information on the dedicated pages, but what we're hearing here is any genre. It's about the strength of the idea, and you know, all genres welcome. Is the residency open to solo artists? Example, a composer writing for themselves to perform solo? Yes, absolutely, as long as I suppose that you have a strong track record in performance as well. Geographically, is it relevant? Artist and venues location? So I suppose is the location, I think maybe the question here is, should the artist kind of be local for the residency? And I suppose that certainly hasn't been necessarily the case in all scenarios. It has for some and not for a lot in the past. I suppose it all comes down to the feasibility as well of you being able to travel and commit to the development days if the location is the other side of the country, but that certainly has happened. So it's about balancing I suppose the demands in terms of feasibility if the location is not local to you. It certainly isn't a requirement. Would everybody be okay with that interpretation? Yeah, great. So I think I'm conscious of the time now, so I'm just seeing which of the residency locations provide use of piano. So if you look at the guidelines, you'll see that outlined where there's a piano available on those pages. You'll be able to answer that there, or find that answer, sorry, there. I think that's all of the questions. We did have one advanced question, but we addressed that. It was about how do you illustrate a strong track record? So we've covered that. So I think we have answered all of the questions that have been asked there. Would anyone like to say anything final to close? Or if not, we can leave it there. I suppose just to say to everybody that this session has been recorded. So it will be uploaded to the social media channels of Music Network and shared by the partners as well. So do let people know who haven't been able to attend today. I'm sure they'll hopefully find it a useful session. So it will be available from tomorrow. And I suppose I speak for everyone here saying, you know, the very best of luck to you all with your applications. Thanks for tuning in today. Thank you on behalf of Music Network to our fantastic partners, in particular for joining us today. It's certainly been very helpful for our question and answer session. If you have any additional questions after this, get in touch with us at Music Network. And I think, yeah, we'll leave it there and just say thank you to everybody and the very best of luck with your applications. We're really looking forward to reading about some exciting ideas that are being proposed.